Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 6 p.m. here in Cairo. This is Shuruk Bakir, and I'll accompany you through the latest development on the national and international arena, starting with the headlines, followed with the details. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi meets with Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, Minister of Petroleum, on developing oil wells. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli is witnessing the launch of the national narrative for economic development policies supporting growth and employment. Minister of Foreign Affairs, Immigration and Expatriates Badr Abdelati meets with Jibril Rajoub, Secretary of the Central Committee of the Fatah Movement. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi gave his directives to continue the development of newly discovered oil wells and include them in the production map, along with intensifying research and exploration activities to enhance Egypt's position as a regional energy hub. This came during the ministerial meeting held on Sunday by President al-Sisi with Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and the Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources, Karim Badawi. The meeting tackled the latest development in the mining sector, as well as the mechanisms for attracting and encouraging new foreign investments in the vital field. The Minister of Petroleum also reviewed the developments in implementing the strategy to transfer Egypt into a regional energy hub, efforts to attract international companies to invest in oil and gas, as well as the status of repayment of dues to foreign companies operating in Egypt. In the new administrative capital, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli is witnessing the launch of the national narrative for economic development policies supporting growth and employment. In her speech, Minister of Planning, Economic Development, Rania Al-Mashat, said that Egypt is continuing the path of development, highlighting the government has focused on renewable energy strategy. She also said that we are enhancing investments in human capacity, as well as tackling industrial productivity to increase public investment, stressing that by 2026 we must transform local economic plan to a mid-term plan. El-Mashat added that the state witnessed development in infrastructure that makes Egypt a model for sustainable development. Minister of Foreign Affairs, Immigration and Expatriates Badr Abdelati stressed Egypt's full rejection of the Israeli military operations in Gaza Strip, plans to replace Palestinians from their territories, crime of genocide, and the use of starvation as a weapon. During his meeting with Jibril Rajoub, Secretary of the Central Committee of the Fatah Movement, Foreign Minister Abdelati asserted that Israel must accept the ceasefire proposal offered by mediators in Egypt and Qatar. Foreign Minister reviewed Egypt's efforts to end the Israeli war on Gaza Strip, in addition to the efforts exerted to ensure the access of humanitarian aid to the Strip. Foreign Minister also condemned illegal Israeli practices in the West Bank, including land confiscation and intimidation campaigns carried out by Israeli settlers against the Palestinian people. The General Commander of the Armed Forces and Minister of Defense, General Abdelmajid Sakr, convened with Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Acting Defense Minister of Ghana, Kasabel Atoforson, and his accompanying delegation currently visiting Egypt. The General Commander of the Armed Forces expressed his appreciation to the distinguished relations between Egypt and Ghana. The entry of humanitarian and relief aid trucks into Gaza Strip resumed on Sunday within the framework of continuous efforts to alleviate the suffering of the Palestinians in the Strip. An official source in Rafah border crossing said that Zed al-Izza convoy started moving from Rafah crossing, heading to Karma Abu Salim crossing to enter Gaza Strip. The convoy is carrying food, medical relief aid, as well as drinking water trucks to meet the needs of the Palestinian people in Gaza Strip. 17 Palestinians were killed in Israeli occupation strikes on Gaza since late last night. The Palestinian press agency WAFA said that the Israeli occupation strikes hit a refugee encampment area in the Rimel neighborhood west of Gaza and apartment in Sheikh Radwan neighborhood to the north of the city. Details in the following report.
17 Palestinians were killed in Israeli occupation strikes on Gaza since late last night. The Palestinian press agency WAFA said the Israeli occupation strikes hit a refugee encampment area in the Rimel neighborhood west of Gaza and an apartment in Sheikh Radwan neighborhood to the north of the city. It said the Farabi school housing refugee families in Gaza City was also hit. Earlier, the Israeli occupation army targeted high-rise buildings in Gaza City on Saturday. Residents of Susi Tower, a prominent 15-story building, said the occupation army gave them around 20 minutes to grab their belongings and flee before warplanes razed the building. It was the second Gaza City tower demolished in as many days. The occupation army also urged Palestinians to flee south ahead of an escalating offensive to occupy the city of nearly 1 million. The Israeli occupation army urged Palestinians to move to a so-called humanitarian zone. The Israeli occupation army bombs tent encampments designated as humanitarian
near the Gaza Strip. 2 projectiles were identified crossing from the central Gaza Strip into Israel territory. The launch came as Israel steps up its operations around Gaza City. And on Saturday, the army carried out a strike that flattened a high-rise in the city, the second in as many days, and dropped thousands of leaflets on western neighborhoods calling on residents to evacuate. Israel Foreign Minister Gideon Saar said that today that the war in Gaza could end if hostages were released and Hamas laid down its weapons. His statement during a press conference with his Danish counterpart in Jerusalem came a day after Hamas retreated its long-standing position that it would free all hostages if Israel agreed to an end to the war and withdraw its forces from Gaza City. Israeli military officials said today that the army was deepening its assault in and around Gaza City as it seeks to step up pressure on Hamas. Israel airstrikes this week have flattened 2 high-rises in Gaza City as troops intensified their operations in the area, aiming to conquer the Palestinian territory's largest urban center. The escalation has fueled fears of further deterioration in already dire humanitarian conditions for Palestinians living in the area. Moving to Russia, where the Russian fired a biggest ever aerial barrage at Ukraine early Sunday, killing at least 2 people and setting the seat of the Ukrainian government in Kiev ablaze. Authorities said that the drone strikes also damaged several high-rise buildings in Kiev, according to emergency services. Russia has shown no sign of halting its 3.5-year military operation in Ukraine, pushing hardline demands for ending the war, despite efforts by the United States to broker a peace deal. The barrage came after several European countries, led by France and Britain, pledged Thursday to deploy reassurance forces to Ukraine to patrol a peace deal between the warring sides, a demand Moscow has deemed unacceptable. The attack on Ukraine's cabinet of ministers, a sprawling government complex at the heart of Kiev, was the first such strike of the war. Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba has decided to step down as members of his ruling party seeks to hold a new leadership race following disastrous upper house elections. The decision comes less than a year after the 60-year-old took the helm of the long dominant Liberal Democratic Party LDP and has since lost his majority in both houses of parliament. Ishiba made the decision to avoid a split in the party. Ishiba also is expected to announce his intention to quit at a news conference later in the day. Hundreds of firefighters battled a fresh wildfire in Portugal and Spain on Saturday following a summer of devastating blaze in the region. While the Americas will messy out, the moon appears red during lunar eclipse because the only sunlight reaching it is reflected and scattered through the Earth's atmosphere. And now moving to the economy and business, where the Central Bank of Egypt announced that the foreign reserve rose to $49.250 billion at the end of August 2025, compared to about $49.36 billion at the end of the July 2025. Egypt's imported the equivalent of an average of $7 billion a month in goods and products from abroad, total an estimated $70 billion. Therefore, the current average foreign exchange reserve covers about 5 months of commodity imports to Egypt, which is higher than the global average of about 3 months of commodity imports. Foreign currencies in Egypt's foreign reserve include the US dollar, euro, Australian dollar, Japanese yen, and Chinese yuan. Egypt's bourse turned lower at the close today amid sell-offs by local cooperation and investment funds against purchases by the Arab and foreign cooperation and local investors. The market capital of listed companies lost some of £10 billion to reach 2.4 trillion Egyptian pounds amid an average trading of 11.6 billion Egyptian pounds in 2 hours. The benchmark index EGX 30 dipped 0.88% above the 34,400 point mark. The equal weighted indices EGX 70 and EGX 100 fell 0.8% and 0.13% respectively.